There once was a hard-working farmer named John, who had a large field full of wheat, ready for harvest. However, when the harvest time arrived, the crops were not as plentiful as he had hoped. Undeterred, he decided to visit the local mill to grind the wheat. Upon reaching the mill, he noticed that the queue of farmers waiting to grind their crops was incredibly long. Impatient to start sowing the new crops, John considered leaving without waiting his turn. Yet he resisted the urge and chose to patiently wait behind the other farmers, learning a valuable lesson in the process. When it was finally his turn and the miller started grinding his wheat, something unexpected happened. The miller mistakenly dropped a small stone into the grinding mechanism. This caused the mill to jam, and the miller, panicked and afraid of losing his job, started hastily searching for the stone. As soon as John realized what had occurred, he immediately stopped the miller and asked him to clean the mill before continuing. The grateful miller understood that if John hadn't intervened, he might have lost his position due to the damaged mill. Overjoyed, the miller decided to show his gratitude by giving John a portion of his ground wheat as a reward. As John collected the wheat and prepared to leave, the sound of a horse's whinny caught his attention. Looking up, he saw a beautiful white horse with a red saddle approaching him. Astonished by the sight, John had never seen such a magnificent horse before. As the horse neared, a rider emerged from behind him and inquired about the owner of the field. Upon learning that it was John, the rider introduced himself as the king's son. The king's son explained that he had been searching for a virtuous and patient person to present a small task and offered the opportunity to John. Intrigued by the offer, John accepted the challenge, unaware of the adventure that lay ahead. The king's son informed John that he needed to transport 2 barrels to the palace that night, promising a substantial sum of money if he successfully completed the task. Eager to earn the reward, John readily agreed and set off on his journey. He carefully loaded the barrels onto his donkey and made his way to the nearest village, where he decided to stop for the night. Upon arriving at an inn, he tied the donkey outside and went inside to rest. Little did he know that the donkey was being eyed by a group of thieves. As the night wore on, the sacks on the donkey became heavier and heavier. Concerned about the weight, John decided to investigate. To his surprise, he found that the sacks had filled with stones. Furious upon discovering the deception, John immediately left the inn, determined to find the culprits responsible for the switcheroo. He searched high and low, but the thieves were nowhere to be found. Just when he began to lose hope, he spotted a familiar figure, the same miller from the wheat mill. With renewed determination, John confronted the miller and demanded answers. Startled by John's sudden appearance, the miller confessed to the crime, revealing that the sacks were now filled with stones and disclosing the whereabouts of the other 2 sacks. Grateful for the information, John wasted no time and rushed to recover the remaining sacks. As dawn approached, he made his way to the city gate, just as the guards were changing shifts. Thinking quickly, he offered the guard a sack full of stones in exchange for passage, claiming that it was a test to see if the guard would accept a bribe. When the shift ended and a new guard replaced the first, John repeated the trick, bribing him with the second sack. Using the same tactic, he bribed the third guard and slipped past the city gates. Arriving at the palace, he knocked on the door and waited anxiously for someone to open it. As the sun rose higher in the sky, he began to worry that he might not receive the promised payment. Just when his spirits were at their lowest, the door opened and a young princess appeared, asking him to enter. Overwhelmed with joy, John stepped inside, greeted by the king's son. The king's son, recognizing John's honesty and integrity, presented him with a large sum of money as promised. But this wasn't the only reward John received. The king's daughter, Princess Mary, had been observing John from afar and had fallen in love with his humble nature and courage. She had secretly instructed her servant to invite John to meet her. Overwhelmed by the princess's beauty, John couldn't help but feel a sense of awe. He had never met anyone like her before. Despite his initial nervousness, they quickly connected, finding common interests and engaging in lively conversations. As the days passed, John and Mary's bond grew stronger. He was drawn to her kindness and intelligence, while she admired his honesty and bravery. Soon, their friendship blossomed into love, and they realized that they were perfect for each other. The king was overjoyed to see his daughter so happy and gave his blessing to their relationship. A grand wedding ceremony was held in the palace, uniting the two hearts in holy matrimony. John and Mary's love story became a tale whispered throughout the kingdom, a testament to the power of love to bring people together. Years went by, and John and Mary's love only grew stronger with time. They ruled the kingdom wisely and compassionately, always remembering the values that had brought them together in the first place. Meanwhile, the miller and the thieves faced justice for their actions. The king, impressed by John's honesty, appointed him to a noble position, recognizing his integrity and good character. As John settled into his new life, he often reminisced about the day he learned the importance of patience and trusting his instincts. It was a lesson that had changed the course of his life forever. And so the story of John, the humble farmer who won the heart of a princess and became a respected member of the royal court, was passed down through generations, inspiring countless others to embrace patience and honesty in their own lives. Once upon a time, deep within an enchanted forest, there lived a poor woodcutter who earned his living by chopping wood and selling it in the nearby village. Despite his hard work, he struggled to make ends meet and often worried about providing for his family. One day, while chopping wood, he heard a voice that seemed to come from the trees around him. Startled, he stopped his work and listened intently. The voice spoke again, this time directing him to a clearing where a tiny cottage nestled amidst the trees. Driven by curiosity and the promise of shelter, the woodcutter followed the voice and soon found himself standing before the cottage. As he approached, he noticed a small table outside the door with a teapot and a cup placed neatly on it. Hesitantly, he knocked on the door, and to his surprise, it opened on its own. Feeling a mix of apprehension and wonder, he stepped inside. The interior of the cottage was cozy and inviting, with a warm fire crackling in the hearth. As he explored further, he discovered a comfortable bed, a well-stocked pantry, and a table with an exquisite meal laid out as if waiting for him. Overwhelmed by the sudden change in fortune, the woodcutter couldn't help but marvel at the mystery of the cottage. Just when he began to wonder who had prepared this feast for him, he heard a voice from above. Looking up, he saw a tiny yet beautiful fairy perched on the windowsill. With a wave of her magic wand, she transformed into a majestic queen, her presence filling the room with an ethereal glow. The queen introduced herself as the owner of the cottage and revealed that she had been watching over the woodcutter. Impressed by his honesty and hard work, touched by her words, the woodcutter shared his struggles and confessed that he had never imagined such kindness could exist. The queen, moved by his humility, decided to grant him 3 wishes, each more magical than the last. The first wish, she granted him untold wealth, ensuring that he and his family would never have to worry about money again. For his second wish, she gave him the ability to communicate with animals, allowing him to understand and be understood by the creatures of the forest. With his final wish, the woodcutter asked for the queen's hand in marriage, and she readily accepted. Together, they were wed in a grand ceremony attended by all the fairies and animals from the enchanted forest. And so the woodcutter, who had once been poor and struggling, now lived a life filled with magic and wonder, all because he had followed the voice that led him to the enchanted cottage. Friends, this story teaches us that sometimes the greatest rewards come from the most unexpected sources. By following the voice of curiosity and embracing the unknown, we can discover magical opportunities that change our lives forever. If you liked this story, please like the video and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories like this. Thank you for being with us. See you again in the next story with new learnings and new inspirations. Until then, keep trying, keep believing, and never give up.